Hi, I'm Laura Lee. I'm Chief Human Resources Officer for MGM Resorts International. I have over 30 years of human resources experience, predominantly in the hospitality and travel field. I'm here to spend some time talking about hospitality and human resources, especially during this time of extreme and constant change. I love and am passionate about hospitality. It's a great industry. It's fun, creative, and you have the opportunity to learn and try different fields. I want to give a brief history of travel and hospitality to compare what we are going through now versus the recession of 2008. The biggest difference is with 2008, the travel industry had just recuperated from 9/11. Airlines had only just started making a profit in 2006, 2 years prior to the recession starting. 2020 was different. Travel was on fire. Hospitality had been rapidly growing ever since the recession. So, what's the difference about this crisis? Overseas travel has been nearly impossible. We've been sheltering in place, self quarantining, and there's a fear of domestic travel. There's been a significant decline in travel and visitor spend in the second quarter of 2020. However, Americans are still traveling. I think that's the good news. Half of the trips in the second quarter of this year were to see friends and family. Additionally, the share of outdoor trips nearly doubled comparing the second quarter between 2019 and 2020. The third quarter saw some of the highest ever recorded growth. While this doesn't indicate the economy has returned to health or pre-crisis levels, it is much better than the second quarter of this year. While I think we're seeing a slight dip in the fourth quarter, I believe that what we'll see is a bit of a roller coaster or a W economic recovery. But will this ever end? For those of you who haven't been in hospitality for a while, that may be the question that you're asking yourself. Yes, it will. This crisis too shall pass. Having been in hospitality for over 30 years, whenever there's a crisis, there's just been ebbs and flows. I talked about the recession, I talked 9/11, we had H1N1. So crises happen. Hospitality has their ebbs and flows, but it does pass. And looking at the positive, though, what has changed is with every crisis, travel and hospitality has become innovative and continued to evolve. If you look back at the recession in 2008, Airbnb started at that time, along with many of the travel apps that you now use. We've already seen innovative ideas coming out of this crisis: germ killing UV robots, delivery robots, mobile check in, service automation. Conventions are now figuring out how can we bring people in safely to bring back that part of the business. However, and also I think what's great is 60% of the Americans have said once we have a vaccine, they're ready to travel. And meeting planners have also said that once that vaccine comes, they're ready to schedule meetings, and they've already been scheduling meetings starting in the second, third quarter of 2021. And most recently, the U.S. Travel Association reported that 8 in 10 Americans have at least tentative trips to plan for the future. People want to get out and enjoy themselves. This has been a stressful time, and not a day goes by that I don't talk with someone who says, I can't wait to do more traveling. When's Las Vegas opening up completely? I want to go out. I want to have a good time with my friends and my family. But I think, like this pandemic, when it comes to employee experience and employee engagement, we're going to see a roller coaster. Similar to what this last year has been, we saw a dip economically in Q2, a peak in Q3. Now we're seeing a bit of a dip in Q4. The same will happen with our employee engagement. It takes a toll. There's a lot of ups and downs right now happening with our employees. There's a lot of positives, but there's also some negatives. In talking with other travel and hospitality professionals, we are seeing similar trends in our employee engagement scores. It seems that our employee engagement scores are going up when it comes to our hourly employees, but they seem to be trending down when it comes to our salaried employees. We think one of the biggest reasons may be is our workload, right? We're all working with smaller staffs. Therefore, there's a lot more work being put on the salaried operational managers that are in your hotels each and every day. Working from home has not been that prevalent in this industry. So we see positive engagement from those employees that are working from home. It also forced the hospitality and travel industry to change. Prior to this, working from home had just been an idea that many of us had talked about, but perhaps not really done. Overall, communication has seemed to improve in talking with other colleagues in this business. But I think leaders will need to continue to monitor employee engagement, doing pulse surveys, taking a look at how is your engagement trending. Because as I stated earlier, similar to the economy, I believe we'll see some ebbs and flows until there's a vaccine and people are more comfortable traveling. So you may ask, what has changed about the employee experience? This pandemic, it's a human crisis requiring people-centric measurement and solutions. Human Resources has been and is doing crisis management planning right now. We've moved large populations from offices to work from home. Every day, the health and welfare of employees is center stage. Our organizations are implementing new digital technologies, and HR has to be agile enough to support the business. But in the end, it's still about the people and their experience within the organization, from how you conducted any layoffs, how you return people back to work, how did you train them when it came to health and safety so that they feel comfortable interacting with guests each and every day. These are things that, as human resources professionals, we are constantly working on every single day, be it the pre-pandemic, during the pandemic, post-pandemic. Again, it's all about the people. But as a result of this, human resources isn't just at the table, we're in the driver's seat. Workforce planning is continually being done in your organization, whether they realize it or not. It's an exciting time. Companies are focusing more on transferable skills. And as human resources leaders, now is the time to start planning and reviewing. Not knowing the length of this wave, you should begin looking at your organization now. Review or create your human resources strategy and lean in or drive your company's business strategy. Conduct a retrospective. What worked well? What could you have done better? How is your culture? Did you live your culture and your core values as you laid people off and brought them back to work? What is your customer sentiment? How did your customers react to all of the health and safety changes you made to the organization? If they didn't react well, why? Are you continually monitoring your guest service scores so that you can make changes and ensure that your employees are skilled and have the ability to cope with the questions and concerns that customers may have? Were you able to quickly pivot and make changes just throughout the last 9 months of this pandemic? Remind your organization that it's okay to fail, but what's most important is that you fail forward. Some other things that may be getting a little deeper to consider as you conduct your retrospective and plan for the future. It's really looking at the employee experience and all of the touch points throughout the employee life cycle. Did leadership think through the employee experience when making decisions throughout this pandemic? Like I said earlier, be it layoff, bringing people back to work, health and safety training. Many of you have a lot of raw data, but were you able to take this data and look at trends? Turning people data into decisions requires skill, effort, and discipline, but having no data is even worse. It's a recipe for disaster and not one that will lead to an economic road to recovery. A greatly changed world requires a new level of learning investment, adaptation, and innovation. Is your onboarding, hiring, and training set up to easily train during the pandemic? Was it easy to bring people back, or is it easy to hire people right now? Do you have the ability to quickly develop curated learning pathways for employees? And do you have the ability to support digital training? Are you able to understand and prepare for the shifts of workers across your organization? I can tell you my organization's moving faster than ever when it comes to digital transformation, and I have to make sure that we are agile enough to support that change. If your organization's doing the same, you need to ask yourself, are we ready to support the business as they go through this digital transformation? One thing I think many of us need to take a step back also is take a look at your culture. You now have a good number of employees that are working from home and a number of employees that are working in your building, servicing your guests. You have the one culture in operations, but what about those that are working from home? Does your culture support those to ensure that employee engagement continues to grow and improve with those that are working from home? I think what's most important is that you create a solid investment in your people. Now you have a burning opportunity to do so and make that case for change. You may be looking at me thinking I've lost my mind, going, you're in the middle of a pandemic. We aren't making as much money. What are you talking about? But I think what's most important is you have that case for change. And if you go into your CFO and can explain that case for change, you may not be able to implement a lot of these new tools now, but at least you can map out when you can make those changes so that you are ready for the future. Without human capital risk planning, executives are flying blind, and it's important that your human capital practices are strong in order to recover economically and then also ensure that you're prepared for the next crisis. Hospitality has always been about the people, our employees and our guests. You'll see here, it's a picture of employees of MGM Resorts in Springfield, Massachusetts. When we opened this property 2 years ago, the town was so excited that they threw a parade, and our employees marched in a parade for the grand opening of our hotel and casino. All of the towns where you have hotels, those of you that are working in travel, such as airlines, people want this and they understand the importance of travel. You can see the excitement of our employees, but you can also see the excitement if you look at this picture of people that are out there for a parade for a hotel opening. It's about our employees and it's about our guests. Travel and hospitality organizations that have solid systems, are agile, and have thoughtfully planned and ensure their values are embedded throughout their employee experience will manage through the crisis. Thank you.